Edit audio.
Hello, everyone. I'm Robin Hopkins, and this is Well Adjusting, where I talk to people about life stuff, but not in an NPR way. It's more like we're at the bar, having cocktails, getting into your business sort of way.
It's giving drunk NPR.
Oh, and producer Steph is here too.
Hello.
Today we chat, well, deciding whether or not to have kids. Hello, friends. And also, hello to all the people who saw the title of this episode and thought to themselves, maybe this is the thing that will finally help me decide if I want to have kids. I mean, it could, because today we are talking to Sam Sanders. He's an award-winning podcaster, a host, and a guy whose clock may or may not be ticking. Since he's a dude, he does have a little more time on his clock. I mean, that's if he wants his DNA in the mix. But at 40, one has to wonder if the state of one's knees will start to become a factor. Those kids, gosh, they really love the playing on the floor, like a lot. Anyway, anyone who knows me knows that I will never try to talk anyone into having kids. It is one of the greatest things that I've ever done, but I mean that in all the good ways and in all the really hard ways. And I am a firm believer that it's too hard to step into if you're just doing it because you're supposed to or because of, FOMO. So here we are with Sam. We're breaking it down. What kinds of questions should you ask yourself when you're wondering if you want to be a parent? I mean, how do you explore the concept of to have kids or not to have kids? These are the questions.
My name is Sam Sanders. I am a podcaster and radio host. I've worked in audio for about 15 years now at places like NPR and Vulture, and I'm always reading a book, watching a TV show or a movie, and playing an album to have more things to talk about.
I love
That's
it.
me.
Well, what are we unpacking today? Like, what do we want to chat about?
Yeah, it's kind of spontaneous, but I've just been literally bringing it up with anyone I can, which is probably inappropriate, but I don't care. I'm 40, and for years I've been on the fence about whether I want to have a kid or not. And about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I ended a long-term relationship that was kind of on the marriage and kids track. And after that, I decided a relationship wasn't a priority for me, really. Especially the idea of a man living in my house. But I think I still want a kid.
Okay.
And so I have so many questions around that. Is it worth doing it alone? How much money do you really need to make it happen in a place like LA? Will I enjoy that life at all?
Well,
And do I actually have a clock ticking? Because I'm 40, but I'm also not going to pass a child through my genitals. I'm not, So
sure
it's
not.
What is the clock? What is the calculus? Is it ever a good idea? Will I actually be happiest unchilded?
Okay, so I love this conversation, and I'm
Okay.
so excited you brought it to us today.
Yeah.
I want to start by asking, because I have about 1,000,001 questions
Okay.
to your 1,000,000 questions, but I want to start with one that my wife asks everyone who is wondering if they want to have a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so she says, you wake up tomorrow, you're pregnant. And so in this world, you can have a baby.
Okay. Yes.
How do you feel?
Finally. I didn't even think before I said it. I think I'd be okay, because it would force me to just do it
Mm-hmm.
and stop perseverating. So I don't.
Nice word choice.
I don't know that I would regret it. I think I would regret morning sickness and losing my figure. But I think if I was pregnant tomorrow, I'd be excited.
All right. So with that in mind, I want to hear, because you mentioned that you were in a relationship and it was heading down a marriage and a family track. What was the disconnect there? Was it just the relationship, or was it you were I don't see my life looking like that? And how does this tie in with your absolute I'd be happy?
Yeah, I think it was one of those relationships where I think we both were drawn to each other because I think we both wanted to be dads. But that was all that was connecting us. And we didn't even have a kid. So it was just what are we doing?
Yeah.
it was like the relationship just existed as a vehicle for that. And I had this fear of ending up in a relationship, which I see so many gay men in Los Angeles in, where it's like they're kind of roommates or real estate partners or co-parents.
We call it the corporation.
The corporation wedding.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'll see those same men who are married on dating profiles.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's my worst nightmare. I can't do that. And so it made me kind of say to myself, do I want both a relationship and a child? Or do I really just want to handle, manage, and live one of those things?
Yeah. Because they are two different things that both take a lot of work.
Exactly. And I already have a job. I got 2 jobs.
Yeah. You got a lot of jobs. A lot of awards too. Just drop that in. No big deal. But you know, it is really difficult. So it's like, let's just like vision a little bit. Like, what would it look like? Because I want to hear about how you would fit it into your life, and if you want that, and then I want to hear about like how far down the thought process are you?
Yeah. So the biggest thing for me is managing, building a community for the child. You know, when I was growing up in South Texas, there were just always kind and concerned adults around.
Yeah.
There was my church folks, my mother's sister, my aunt lived like down the street, and she was always there babysitting for us. There were family friends. And so my parents were never overburdened by the act of parenting because there was just always other grown folks around that wanted to like care for us. And now in LA, my network is different, and I don't have that. You know, a lot of the adults in my life who I love, they're not trying to babysit.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to put that on them. And logistically...
Because they won't, by the way. They
won't.
will not.
Exactly. And logistically, something about LA, it just feels harder to like shuttle a kid to and fro. Like the idea of getting a kid to practice in school and doctor and this and that is very easy in small town South Texas. I have a coworker who's a parent of 3 kids, and he says sometimes just getting the kids where they need to go, he's in the car 4 or 5 hours, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So I think about that. And then I just think about the money and the freedom. Like right now, I pretty much set my own schedule. I mostly work from home, and most of my workday is self-directed. I usually get a nap every day. I don't set an alarm clock.
Okay.
And I'm pretty free. And I'm like, oh shit, would I resent a child if it took away some of that freedom?
Yeah. Yes, you would sometimes. No,
Okay.
you know, I would say this. I don't think you would resent the child, but I do think that you would long for like the time before. Because it is like a BC AD type thing. It's a hard line and everything changes. It's a new normal.
Yeah.
You know, so I think what's interesting about what's happening is that like you're laying out, you're like, yes. And then you're laying out like, okay, then there's the money, and then there's the social, and then there's my work, and then there's my life. And do I want it to change? And so like you're obviously a doer. You got 800 jobs. You're doing really well at them. But are you a project manager type person? Like, are you?
This is the thing. It's like when I think of my skill sets, I'm very good at talking. I'm very good at motivating people. I'm not a paperwork dude. I'm not a logistics dude. I have a hard time keeping track of like my own medical records. And so something about the project management of it all with a kid also seems daunting.
Yeah.
Like I have to like have a relationship with this kid's doctor and do all the documents and like apply for the right preschool for this motherfucker. Like that, like being with the child and hanging out with the kid, I'm like, yeah.
It's like making a podcast though. That's 5% of the job.
Exactly.
Like
Like
the
all
rest
the
is
clerical,
clerical.
I'm just like, ah! That
Well,
said,
okay.
I'm not wedded to having my own child either. I'll adopt whatever.
Well, but I will say this, that you're going 0 to 1,000. Like that first year, you just have to keep them alive. You just got to stick a bottle in there and you just got to like change some diapers, and then you have to try to sleep. So it's like by the time you get to some of those things that you're talking about, you already like
You're kind of
community
in it.
comes through, like you're at some mommy and me daycare thing, you're at some like whatever thing, and community starts to show up by like-minded people.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm curious about like how, like there's a lot of like barriers. Like you would need to figure out how, you'd need to figure out like support because you would be kind of going it alone if
so.
you are separating those things.
Yeah.
When you start to like add that, does that change where you're at, and what do you think of all of that?
Yeah. I think the biggest worry I have is raising a kid without close family involved. So I have a lot of family still in Texas, but the folks that would like help me take care of a kid, like my Aunt Betty, she's 70, so she can hold a newborn, but she's not chasing a toddler. Yeah. And I like the idea of a kid growing up surrounded by relatives that care about them, and the idea of like paying a stranger that my kid then calls mama or dada gives me pause. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I get it. This is the way the world works. Nannies are a thing. Thank God for them. But would that make me feel bad? I don't know.
Well, I can say this. All of it will make you feel bad, but it will also be the greatest love you'll ever experience. And I don't mean like the kind of love that opens you up. That's like, and by the way, I just want to say this. Never, not once will I ever try to talk anyone into parenting, because I think it's very difficult. And I think if you want to do it well, you got to go into it really seriously. So, but I do say that like, it's that great love in the way that it will challenge you. It will push you to every growth edge. But it's also like you can look at them. I don't care if they're 3 months or 13, and you see them sleeping, and you're like, and it's just your heart, just So it's that great love in all the great ways and all the hard ways.
Yeah.
You've mentioned a lot of things you're afraid of or like worried about with like the clerical issues or the project management. And I'm just wondering, like, when you were with your ex, was that something that they were excited about doing?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
he'd do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Like he was kind of the logistics queen, and I was just like, I can keep a kid entertained forever. Like, I'll just hang out with the kid and be like, let's fucking go, dude. Like, let's play. Let's go. I will tire you out. I will rock you to sleep. I will be on the floor with you. Like that. My limit, at least right now, doesn't exist. I'll hang out with the kid until they're fucking tired. I like that.
Yeah.
And then I want to go nap myself and not like pack their fucking lunch,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I feel like that adds like some insight, because it's like, was that also a problem? Like something you were worried about then, but it was less of one because you had someone to deal with it. So I feel like you probably have even more fear now.
Yeah.
And then my other question was, I just wanted to know, like, what does your community look like in LA?
I have several straight friends who are my age or a bit older who have kids.
Why?
Who I like.
Just kidding.
And they're cool. I like their kids. I like how they parent. And I'm like, all right, y'all are good possibility models. But all of them either have a spouse or an ex-spouse that they share the duties with. And then I have a bunch of gay friends who are never having a fucking child. They're just like not. We're all like the typical LA stereotype of like Peter Pan gays, where we get older, but we don't tell you that. And we're just like, it's like a series of vacations, fancy dinners, and like fun times. And I love that community, but I would never ask them to like watch my fucking kid.
Yeah.
So I have people in my life that represent like both extremes. I have people I see parenting, and I have people I see not at all wanting that. And I gotta say, the people who seem the happiest are the divorced moms, because they share custody. They got help. They have several days a week where the kids are gone. They are post-divorce sexually liberated and have partners who fulfill them sexually. And their kids get to see an independent mom and woman. So it's funny. Yeah. Part of me is like, Sam, do you want a man? Do you want kids? Or do you want a divorce?
It's funny. Mary and I always say we want to be divorced, but like not divorced. Like we need somebody that we divorced to take our kids a couple days a week.
Yes.
When they were younger. Because there was a lady who was our neighbor who was, I started whispering like she still lives there. She moved. But she was like a single mom, like a divorce, and the kids would be gone. And I would see her like leaving with her tennis racket, and we were like in the trenches. Yes. I was so bitter with her in the elevator because I was just like, could your husband take our kids too?
Yeah.
And he did not. He did not. Yeah.
Well, and then my friend who's divorced, her great setup is the dad has the girls on the weekends. She gets weekends off.
Oh,
She gets weekends off.
Although I will say this, like there was like a point when I first had my kids where I was doing all the math of how much time they were in care and how much time they were with us. And if I didn't have them for the weekends and they were in school, I think I'd be really sad I didn't get to be with them at all. During the time when you get to, when they're not at school or whatever. Mm-hmm. There's no good setup.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, we've thrown out, there's a shit ton of barriers.
Yeah.
But there's also like this like joy and this thing that you want. Mm-hmm. Look, you don't have a clock. You don't have eggs that are getting dusty, to my knowledge. No. But if you start doing math, like if you have a kid at 42, then all of a sudden, like, will your knees be broken when they're 16? Yep.
Exactly.
Does that give you pause at all? Or does that like motivate you to come out of the could stage?
Yeah. I think a lot about how long I need to be physically active for a child as a parent.
Yeah, I think about that all the time too.
Is it until they're in high school? Is it until they're in middle school? I think the first 10 years, you want to be like on the ground with those kids.
You got to be.
Right? But like once they're in high school, they don't want to play fetch with you. They don't. So it's like.
No, but when they're in high school, all of a sudden they're starting to go to parties and shit. And now you got to stay up real late. And you got to do like, because you got to make sure they come home and you're going to pick them up and you're doing all that stuff. So it's like, then it becomes more, and also it becomes emotionally taxing.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, this is the thing. It's like, I live a life, thankfully, where I'm kind of typically like unbothered and I don't introduce things into my space that are going to fucking bother me, which is, I think, why I love living alone. And I wonder whether my tolerance for external annoyances will increase as I get older or decrease. Like every year I feel like I'm better at knowing myself and better adjusted as a human. And I love myself more and think holistically more about being a human in the world. But also, every year that goes by, I also find like my patience for certain things gets shorter. So I don't know if I'll be a really great, emotionally well-rounded parent at 60 or if that peak's going to be like 50. I don't fucking know.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is no one knows.
Yeah.
And I wonder if like you're sort of in that like shit or get off the pot phase of life. Mm-hmm. Are you open to like starting to get into the conversations about what it would take to have a child? Like I used to say this would be like a whole pack of lesbians. I used to do this like intro at our house, like how to make a baby lesbian style. And they would come over, I'd run the blender and we'd talk, I'd be like, use this insurance, go to this RE, do this. But, and they would be like, oh, I don't know, like sperm is so expensive. And I was like, if you can't even afford the sperm, how are you paying for daycare? Yeah, like it's like my kids are now, they're buying grown-up size shoes. And so now like everything's times 4. We got 4 desks in the house, 4 sets of towels, 4, it's all that. Yeah.
Well, and like this is the thing. I will tell some really close friends of mine, I'll be like, you know what? Also, if I really wanted to do it, I would have done it by now. I'm a self-starter. I'm self-motivated. I've never even Googled how to fucking get a kid. What is that saying?
How to get a kid.
There's a certain kind of avoidance, like I've never done the research into adoption or fostering or whatever. And it's like, well, Sam, if you really wanted to do it and were serious about it, you'd at least like start to like fucking Google this shit. And I haven't. And I wonder what that is. I wonder what message that's sending to me.
Well, I mean, it's sending the message you're not ready right now, or you think you've got all the time in the world.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think the question for me would be to explore, like, what if it doesn't happen? Maybe I started with the wrong version of the question. So, like, full disclosure, when I always knew I wanted to have kids, like, I just knew. I was like, I just thought, like, I thought I was going to have this, like, man on a mountain. And then I was like, oh, no, now it's a lady. Like, we all evolve. And Mary was like, didn't think she was going to want to have kids. And so I gave her, like, I did this whole setup where I gave her, like, 2 weeks. I was like, go off and think about it. Picture your
2
life
weeks,
with
that's
kids.
All. Wow.
Yeah. We had places to go. We had things to do. We had babies to make.
We had sperm to buy.
I know. I was like, but also I was like, how long are we going to the shit or get off the pot? I was like, how long are we going to sit in this? Like, we're either doing this or we're not.
Are we constipated? Like, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Do we need fiber? So I was like, just go off and think about your life think about your life without, and then like come back to me and let me know, and then we'll figure it out. Because I didn't want to lose her.
Yeah,
I knew both those things. I wanted both the things, and so, but she came back in like 2 days, and she had this whole story about like we've been to Boston, and I was like, what? And it was all about like how she pictured us at like 60, being like having an open weekend and being like, well, do you want to go to like Phoenix this weekend? I don't know. We have money with disposable income. Like, what do you want to do? Well, we've been to Boston. When she visioned it, her life just felt sort of empty for her. And she was like, let's do it.
Yeah.
But so I'm not saying that is your experience, but like, I would say that's what I would tell you to do, is to go off and think about what your life would look like with and what your life would look like without.
I think a life with a child versus without, maybe a bit more interesting with a kid. There's more shit going on. You're doing things. I wonder, especially in this like place like LA, where like gay men like myself can just feign youth until we die. It's like, would my life get increasingly repetitive? You know, you go to the bars and you see the same guys every year, and then they're 50 and ripped, and then 60 and ripped. And then you're like, why?
And things are starting to look a little off.
Yeah. And it's like, I wonder, it's like, could I get to a point where like I'm 60 and single and just fucking bored?
Yeah.
Whereas I'm 60 and I have like a kid. It's like, I'm getting that motherfucker off to college. That's exciting.
Well, I wonder what it would take for you to begin exploring. You said you've never even Googled it. So like, what do you think it would take for you to be like, to start to, because I'm a firm believer that like either path is valid, but you should know the path you want to be on so that you don't have regrets.
Yeah.
So like, what would it take for you to start to figure it out?
I mean, you asking me that question, I'm like, okay, I need to close down this Riverside, and then once we're done with this, like, Google gay
How to
baby
get a
Los
baby.
Angeles. Because why not? I mean,
Maybe do that in a private window. But.
Yeah. I think that like a lot of times speaking a thing out loud makes you accountable to yourself. And I was like, okay, now I've said this on a fucking podcast. I have to Google before people hear this and ask, Sam, did you Google baby today?
Okay, but also I feel like we have to acknowledge that like the avoidance to look into it, and also the like not thinking about it, like you're like a gay person. That is not, I feel like that's very normal to be queer and have like either completely, like I feel like I shut down the idea of having kids when I was like 6, because I was like,
That's
not
what
gonna
Mary
happen.
said.
I've never been able to do this. I won't be able to do it.
Yeah.
Like I know I don't want to birth a baby, but you know, it's not parenting. And I feel like because you know that it's harder and there aren't examples of it really, or like very newly there are examples of it, like
Especially for gay men. For gay men.
and people are really hard on gay men that
yeah.
co-parent. Like
Oh yeah. Well, it's
and
like
gay women.
I think of my like ideal place to raise a child. It's actually suburban South Texas. I grew up outside and in San Antonio, which is a majority minority city and pretty progressive. And because it's in Texas, it's still pretty cheap to live. And I was like, oh, it's a great place to raise a kid. But I could never fathom doing that there with a man. Couldn't fathom it.
Would you ever consider some kind of a non-traditional setup? I mean, I feel like they can sometimes go wonky.
Yeah.
But, you know, there was like a whole group at the New York City Gay and Lesbian Center like back in the day. I don't know if it still exists. And it was like lesbians and gay men like kind of coming together and like creating families. And then you get your co-parenting. I mean, it's really non-traditional. Like no judgment in that. But
yeah. I know one guy who does that. He like sees the kid every weekend. He was a sperm donor. I know another guy who did it. And there was like a rift over time about how much the mother wanted him involved. And he was like, I'm not a full-time parent. And I told you this going in. I think it is a navigation and probably a little more emotionally fraught than other setups, but it's doable. It's definitely doable. I wonder though, I wonder if that feels like more work than just doing it myself. I don't know, but it's a possibility.
I feel like maybe don't, while you're doing your Google search, maybe don't throw it out.
Yeah, don't throw it out. Yeah.
Maybe you take somebody's kids for the weekend, like one of your friends, and just like you give your friends a break and you have the kids for a weekend and you just like do it as a trial experiment and see like when they're like messing up your really pretty kitchen, how that feels.
How it feels.
And like seeing them do it and seeing them like first of all, building relationships with people that you're like, oh, like, you know, I would want these people to be in my parent community. First of all, it gives you resources because then you'll probably have a babysitter.
Yeah.
But also it's just like, I feel like it is different to be a queer parent, and I want you to have other queer parents in your community.
I appreciate that. There's a pit bull. Oh, he's chunky. Who is this?
That's Chef. He's our mascot.
Hi, Chef.
This
He's
is
crazy.
Chef. He's a new Oh God. He's newly adopted, but he was in the shelter for 230 something days, so he's very new to the world.
Oh, he's
and
figuring it out.
I don't think he likes to be alone, so I apologize.
I
but I'm mostly muted anyway, so we'll just let him sit with us.
It's all good. It's all good.
Sorry.
Some of this stuff just feels daunting. Like, there's some days where like feeding myself is a challenge. I ain't got enough food at the house. I don't want to go out. I don't want to cook. Getting 3 meals in me, it's like, I got to think about this and figure it out.
Yeah.
When you have a kid, you have to feed that thing all day, every day for its entire life. Every day, you got to feed another thing.
And God forbid they have like a peanut allergy or some shit, and then you're like making lunches forever. I wish I could make you feel better, but it's not. You're right with all these.
Yeah. It's like usually when I wake up, I have like 1 or 2, no more than 3 like responsibilities for the day, and then I'm free. And I think about parents, they wake up, the list doesn't end of things you're like, responsible for.
Yeah.
And that's like, whoa, okay.
Yeah. That's why I think the weekend might be good. I think the weekend might be good to see what it would be like. Because it would answer Steph's question. You would see what you lost, which is like dinners with your friends.
Yeah.
You know, like your clean house.
Yeah.
Your freedom, your spontaneity. Like, you know, but then you'd be maybe doing funny shit and eating ice cream and like, you know, the floor is lava. You know, you'd be doing different stuff, you know.
Yeah.
I'm going to make an awful comparison, and all of the parents listening are just going to have to accept that I'm making it. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
But in a lot of ways, I do feel like getting this dog was
Oh, no, that's valid.
A big deal. And the things that you're saying, I have that fear. I have always wanted a dog. Like, I fucking love dogs. I love animals. I like always have other people's dogs at my house. Like, I love them. But I'm like, I live alone. I own a company. I'm literally traveling 1 to 3 times a month, every month. I have no family here. I have no one that would take care of my pet. And all my very close friends have animals. So what if my dog didn't get along with their dog? What if my dog was annoying or something? And you don't know. Like, you might not have a good kid, you know? You might have a shitty one.
That's the thing. And
that sucks. And you still have to love it. And I feel that way about dogs. Again, I'm sorry. And I recognize kids are, you know, more important than animals. But
it's true. Because like there's some big shifts.
You have 2 dogs.
I have 2 dogs. And like there are some things that change right away. Like before I had a dog, I would leave my house in the morning to walk to work because I was in DC, a very small, tight, compact city. And I knew every day I could be out for as long as I wanted to be out. And then when I got a dog, the first one I got when she was a puppy, I had to go home every day to walk her during lunch. And then once work was over, I had to go home to get her. And I really could not be out of the house for like more than 6 hours at a time. And the first week, you're like, what is this? And then you just do it.
Did you have the same concerns before you got the dog?
I didn't even think about it. I was like, I want a fucking dog. And I knew it more than anything, and I got it. And it was like, my life changed in these ways very quickly, but also I was like, I had a dog, a really cute dog. And then the stuff that feels really logistically hard, you quickly realize that you're not the first person to have that problem, and there is a fix. Yep. Like there is actually a fix for childcare. There is a fix for feeding your child. There is a fix for traveling with or without a child or a dog. And I found out very quickly, like, oh my God, I'm not the first person who needs to make an impromptu work trip. I can get someone to watch my fucking dog. Like, this is also one of the things that I think is a parallel between like dogs and kids. Like, there actually are infrastructures that support the rearing of children because a lot of folks have children and dogs, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, it's not like you have to create the wheel.
Yeah.
It's already there.
But that's why I ask, because I'm like, well, if you did that and you can recognize that, you know, you were stressed about these things and they were a bit annoying, but you figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the exercise you really need to do is taking all of those worries away. Like, you're going to fucking figure them out, you know, and just seeing how it feels. Like, when if you take all those things away, like, do you want to be a father? Do you want to be a parent? Do you want to parent something?
Yeah.
Someone. Not something.
Yeah.
I mean,
some days there's something.
Start with a plant, you know?
Yes, it's hard for me to keep a plant alive. Very hard.
All right. Well, I feel like if it was in a pile, we spread it out.
Yes.
A little, and we pulled some threads on the yarn,
which is
like
good.
To help to break the ball apart.
Yeah.
But we're definitely gonna need some kind of an update from you.
Okay, I will definitely update
after you have some more conversations, because I'm dying to know where you land on this.
Me too. But
you know what? No matter what, though, the thing I feel is that you know yourself really well, and you're going to be fine either way. And like you'll make that decision, and you'll be there.
And I have kids in my life. I have 4 nephews, a godson, and his 2 siblings who I'm close to, and all my friends who have kids. I like their kids and hang with their kids. So there's also another path where it's just I don't have my own kid, but just have those kids in my life. There's also things where I'm like, oh, I could do that. Like, I know people
like
who
a big brother,
a
or
big brother,
that kind
big
of stuff.
sister, or like I know someone who volunteers to hold the preemies in the NICU.
Oh,
and I'm
my
like,
God.
Sam, do you want to do that? And I'm like, maybe I do.
Yes.
So
That's,
like,
you know what I love about this is like you're already kind of like, okay, if I go down this road, it's not a binary choice.
Yeah.
There are other things that could bring the same feelings in for you, and I love that.
Yeah. Okay. I'll update y'all.
All right. Yeah, this was lovely. Thank you so much,
fun.
Sam.
Thanks for having me.
Ooh, well, friends, I'm going to say it. Having a kid is a very big decision. You know, we're not here to lie to you. But if you're stuck, do some research. Borrow your friends' kids. Do some visioning. All that's going to help you be more informed on what you want to do, like help you get to your gut instinct. But one final thought. If you're waiting for the right time to have kids, you're going to be waiting a real long time because there is never a perfect time. I say if you're waiting, but you want to do it, just jump. The water is fine and the swimming is nice, mostly. But if you're on the fence and you're realizing that really, if you could be honest with yourself, it's not really for you, but maybe you're afraid of what folks are going to say, then I say just let it go. Look, friends, it's a wild and busy world out there, and I just hope that we can all find things that bring us more joy. All right, friends, that is it for today. Thanks, Sam Sanders, for joining us and letting us chat through one of the biggest decisions in your life. We're honored. For more Robin, and you may need that, you probably don't need it, but like if you do, you can follow me at Real Rob Hops on all the platforms, all the socials, as the kids today say. Well Adjusting is an Edit Audio original series. It's exec produced by Steph Colburn and Robin Hopkins. Our producer and editor is Maria Passingham, and our production manager is Kathleen Speckert. Thank you to the entire Edit Audio team and to you for listening. Oh, hey, before you take out those AirPods, this show is just for entertainment. If you are in need of help, please, please, please reach out to a professional. Go ahead and get that help. You deserve it.
Are you feeling stuck in your career or lacking employment at the moment? Experiencing symptoms of job dissatisfaction? You might be suffering from a common condition known as career stagnation. But don't worry, there's a solution. Monster.com. Monster.com offers a comprehensive suite of career-boosting tools designed just for you. Our free resume review and AI interview prep tool will help you stand out from the crowd. Need more guidance? Dive into our career advice articles for expert tips and insights. And don't forget to check out our salary tools to ensure you're getting paid what you're worth. Side effects may include a new job, increased confidence, and a brighter future. Consult Monster.com today and take the first step towards your new career. Ready for your next job opportunity? Visit Monster.com now.